With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists across the fruited plain. It is your host, Eric Erickson, and my show. I bet you know the name. Yeah, the Eric Erickson Show, because I'm not that creative. Welcome. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I, ensconced in the actual studio of my flagship station, I got an event to go to tonight for my buddy Scott Slade. I am going to go on a TikTok tirade again. You all know my feelings on TikTok, but something happened yesterday. We need to go in the Wayback Machine. We need to get in the time machine. We need to go all the way back to May 2nd, 2011. Roll us back. On May 2nd, 2011, American special operators raided Osama bin Laden's location in Pakistan, his compound. Ordered by Barack Obama, opposed by Joe Biden. In the compound, they found a letter Osama bin Laden had written to America. His letter to America. From Osama bin Mohammed bin Laden to the American people, I speak to you about the subject of the ongoing war between you and us. Even though the consensus of your wise thinkers and others is that your time of defeat will come, compassion for the women and children who are being unjustly killed, wounded, and displaced in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan motivates me to speak to you. First of all, I would like to say that your war with us is the longest war in your history and the most expensive for you financially. As for us, we see it as being only halfway finished. If you were to ask your wise thinkers, they would tell you there is no way to win it because the indications are against it. How will you win a war whose leaders are pessimistic and whose soldiers are committing suicide? If fear enters the hearts of men, winning the war becomes impossible. How will you win a war when the cost is like a hurricane blowing violently at your economy and weakening your dollar? The Bush administration got you into these wars on the premise that they were vital to your security. He promised that it would be a quick war, won within 6 days or 6 weeks. However, 6 years have passed. And they are still promising you victory and not achieving it. Then Obama came and delayed the withdrawal that he promised you by 16 more months. He promised you victory in Afghanistan and set a date for withdrawal from there. 6 months later, Petraeus came to you once again with the number 6, requesting that the withdrawal be delayed 6 months. And on it goes. He ends with this. Peace be upon those who follow right guidance. We are defending our right. Jihad against the aggressor is a form of great worship in our religion, and killing us means a high status with our Lord. Thanks to God, we have been waging jihad for 30 years against the Russians and then against you. Not a single one of our men has committed suicide, whereas every 30 days, 30 of your men commit suicide. Continue the war if you will. Justice is the strongest army, and security is the best way of life, but it slipped out of your grasp the day you made the Jews victorious in occupying our land and killing our brothers in Palestine. The path to security is for you to lift your oppression from us. Now, you could have found this. It was published in Foreign Policy. It was published in Foreign Affairs. It was published in the Washington Post. It was published in the London Guardian. But it kind of passed by. I mean, it's a propagandistic bit of nonsense from Osama bin Laden where he echoes the communist postmodern ideologies of the left on college campuses. to try to claim that his oppression justifies his terrorism and that terrorism is a form of resistance. I mean, this is the sort of crap you hear on college campuses. But yesterday, Osama bin Laden's letter to Americans began to circulate on TikTok. I would submit to you it is not a coincidence that Osama bin Laden's letter began circulating about the time President Xi of China showed up in San Francisco to talk to Joe Biden. TikTok is a Chinese spy and disinformation operation. And these videos of American kids suddenly discovering Osama bin Laden's letter, it speaks to them. Now, you would think that they would question their woke ideology when confronted with a terrorist who killed 2,400 American citizens, and instead the reaction was, oh, they deserve to die. No, I'm not making that up. Listen, here's some of the audio I can play for you that's not explicit.
Girl, what? They found the letter. What letter? The letter. What letter? Osama's letter. So I just read a letter to America, and I will never look at life the same.
I feel like I'm going through like an existential crisis right now.
So this is a really good example of narrative control.
Narrative control. So here's what happened. They all started linking to the Guardian's copy of Osama bin Laden's letter. The Guardian is a British newspaper. So the Guardian deleted it. The Guardian is a nonprofit. Their web traffic went through the roof. They deleted it to shut down traffic, to save money. And suddenly, narrative control. The government and the media is blocking us from Osama bin Laden's letter. They don't want us to know the truth. It was literally, y'all, it was published in 2011. One of the people says, in my last 20 minutes, my entire viewpoint on the entire life I lead and have lived has changed. Please read this entire letter. Another said, it is so mind-effing me that terrorism has been sold as this idea to the American people that this random group of people just woke up one day and suddenly hate you. The actions of 9/11 and those acts committed against the USA and its people were all just the buildup of our government failing other nations. You got that? 9/11 was a response of the oppressed towards the oppressor. Does it sound familiar to you? It's the same arguments the Hamas supporters are making about attacking Israel on October 7th. It was a justified act of resistance. Here's the problem. TikTok is the number one, and I'm using air quotes, news source. It is the number one news source of people age 18 to 29 in the United States of America. And yesterday, the Chinese dictator Xi Jinping was meeting the American President Joe Biden in San Francisco. The propagandistic, revelatory reveal of Osama bin Laden's letter and its justification began circulating on TikTok, which is a website that is actually literally, legitimately controlled by the Chinese military. Y'all, TikTok is an app overseen by the Chinese military and the Chinese Communist Party. It can run every clever ad it wants during Republican debates on Fox News. It can hire as many Republican and Democratic lobbyists as it needs to persuade Americans it's not nefarious, but it doesn't change that at the end of the day, at its root, at its core, at its foundation, TikTok is a spy and disinformation platform controlled by the People's Republic of China and the Chinese People's Liberation Army. It is not a coincidence that the algorithm, which for a month has been showing people interested in news items, pro-Hamas talking point videos, suddenly on the day Xi Jinping shows up in San Francisco, shifts to show bin Laden's letter and all the sympathetic white kids, all of whom were born after 9/11, by the way, realizing that, oh my gosh, Osama bin Laden was right and resistance is justified. It happened on the same day that pro-Hamas supporters tried to storm the Democratic National Committee's headquarters in Washington, D.C. Violent protests outside the DNC last night. This is a platform that is the preferred place to get news for American teens, and it targets those teens and propagandizes them in favor of transgenderism and sex reassignment surgeries and Hamas, how good it is, and how justified Osama bin Laden was. In 2015 and 16, in 2020, the American press corps was beside itself with the misinformation and disinformation run on Facebook and Twitter. There were calls for censorship. In fact, when the Biden administration got into the White House, they began having direct communications with Twitter to try to suppress supposed COVID denialist voices. They were so concerned about misinformation and disinformation. To this day, the major media operations within the United States are horrified by Facebook and Twitter's ability to spread misinformation and disinformation. Notice how quiet they all are about a Chinese military operation running a website that spreads pro-Osama bin Laden propaganda. Notice how quiet Joe Biden is about TikTok disseminating, indoctrinating pro-Hamas, pro-Bin Laden talking points. Notice how unconcerned CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and the Washington Post are about TikTok. I mean, it really is remarkable with Joe Biden. He's a man who's concerned about misinformation or disinformation, wholly uninterested in shutting down China's easy access into the lives and minds of our kids. TikTok needs to be destroyed in its present form. But here's something else. I want you to pay attention to this over the next few days. I'm giving you a homework assignment for once. I've never done this before. Over the last month, in the streets of big cities across America, pro-Hamas supporters have been ripping down the posters of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas. And on a daily basis, through the power of the internet, these people are being identified. We're finding out their college leaders. We're finding out their law review editors. We're finding out their professionals in the city. We're finding out who they are. See if this happens with the people who are doing these videos on TikTok. Because I'm not convinced it's Americans doing this. I'm not convinced this isn't some sort of operation by a foreign government that then manifests itself and gets amplified and echoed by others. Remember, a couple of months ago, there was a video that began circulating on TikTok. It went viral, and it was a girl who's being proposed to, and as the boy puts the ring on her finger, suddenly she flashes to a life of what it would be like with a child. It was a life of misery, where she's home, cooking, taking care of a kid, changing diapers, the kid's peeing on her. And if you paid attention to the background of the video, this white kid, white girl, she's in China. You can actually see behind her, she's in China. This is a staged video that went viral in the algorithm for TikTok. It went everywhere. Everybody was seeing it. And if you paid attention to the background, you realize this girl was not in the United States. This girl was in China. So I want to know, are the people exposed in this video, are they actually Americans? Are these people documented to be progressives in America? But then pay attention to something else, how shallow these people are if they are Americans. That they can read bin Laden's letter and suddenly, from the words of a terror mastermind who killed 2,400 of their American citizens, moms and dads, brothers and sisters, children, firefighters, police, the innocent, they could so quickly take the side of a mass murderer. If it is actually American citizens and not just a propaganda campaign from China or Russia, it's a damning indictment on the culture these people live in, which happens to be the culture you and I also live in, and that should bother us greatly. Guys, if you're a small, mid-sized business, you're struggling with HR issues, you have employees not showing up, or you got to do a termination, you need onboarding of employees, maybe there's a sexual harassment complaint. You want an HR manager. You don't want to be the bad guy with your employees. Bambee can play the role of HR for you. $99 a month, available by phone, email, real-time chat. They do onboardings, terminations. They help your team members get to peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations, regardless of which state. They're great. Now, they're U.S.-based. You got somebody to talk to who's dedicated to your team. They give you access to HR expertise, and they add personal touches. So even though they're outsourced by your company, they really feel like they're a part of your team. That matters. Go to Bambee.com right now. Type in Eric Erickson under podcast. When you sign up, it'll help my show. Bambee.com, 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 Eric Erickson in the podcast tab.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Y'all, I think it's important for us to note it's not just the left that's gone insane with some of this stuff. Let me play you this little clip from Tucker Carlson last night. Some of you may nod your head here, but it's the subtle twisting towards your own worldview, like those on the left, the subtle twisting towards Osama bin Laden's worldview. Listen to this.
There's also, I can't help but notice that your views reflect mine, I would say pretty much. I'm an American. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. I also think it was pretty strange. I don't really understand how it happened, but innocents died, and that's awful. And I hated watching that. And I feel so sorry for the Israelis who were killed. However, there's an emotional response that is disproportionate, I think, on the part of some commentators. I mean, our country's being invaded right now by millions of young men whose identities we don't know, who probably don't even like America, and they're now living here. Over 100,000 Americans die every year of fentanyl. I've known a couple. Those are real tragedies. I've never seen anything like the emotion from any commentator around those tragedies as I'm watching about a foreign tragedy. I think.
Okay, first of all, for those of you nodding your heads with it, this wasn't just a foreign tragedy. This was an invasion where 31 American citizens were murdered, and 12 of them, still American citizens, are being held hostage. It wasn't just a tragedy against Jews in Israel, but against American citizens. They beheaded babies. Of the people invading this country, I hear people get worked up about it all the time. I hear myself get worked about it on this radio program. I guess Tucker's not listening. No big deal, nor Candace Owens, who was in the interview. But, you can be upset about three things at once, but one of them is only having babies' heads chopped off and children being put in ovens and the ovens turned on to murder them. Fentanyl is a crisis. I've devoted multiple monologues to the disaster and how we need to stop it. It's just, notice the dichotomy here of you're not allowed to look at things globally. You're not allowed to look at multiple things. You're not allowed to hold three ideas in your head. It's got to be all or nothing on each of these things. That's as perverted a worldview as what's happening with these pro-Osama people on TikTok. And you need to note this isn't something that's just happening on the left. It is happening on the right as well. Now, I need to tell you about Stamps.com because some of you are going to be livid about standing in line at the post office this holiday season or UPS trying to mail packages. And I got a way for you to avoid the lines at Stamps.com. All you do is go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, and put in my name, Eric. You'll get a limited time trial. You'll get free postage. You'll get a free digital scale. You have no contract to sign. You have no long-term commitment. You get 84% off post office and UPS rates. You can find the cheapest option. You can find the fastest shipping option. You can print the label right off your computer. You do not have to stand in line. You can arrange pickup at your home or office for your packages. It's that easy. All you need is a printer, and you need a computer or a mobile device. It is brilliant. It saves time. I use it all the time. UPS shows up at my office, picks up my packages. I never have to go stand in line. You don't either. All you need to do is go to Stamps.com, click on the mic, put in my name, Eric, and start saving with Stamps.com today, and stop standing in line with all those people coughing on you. Stamps.com, click the mic, put in Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Save today.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Glad to have you with me. Phone lines are open, by the way. 877-973-7425. All right. I got plenty of other stuff that I'm kind of actually obsessed with this TikTok stuff because it doesn't happen virally. You don't have thousands of people all at one time discover Osama bin Laden's letter to Americans and all conclude, oh, this thing is something new. I mean, it's been around since 2011, people. You don't have that. And then all of them individually rush to TikTok and say the same thing. I can't actually play you the larger montage because there's a lot of profanity in it. And honestly, if we bleeped the profanity, it would bleep so much of it, you wouldn't even understand what you were listening to. But it's remarkable to me how so many of them all rush to the same talking points of my mind is blown. I can't believe the lies I've been fed. This is what narrative control is. Please go read the letter. How many of these are real people? I put this up during commercial break. I put this up on Twitter. A few months ago, a video went viral on TikTok of a white girl getting proposed to. When the ring touched her finger, she had a mental flash to a dream of misery of the horrors of being married and having a kid. She yanks her hand away from the ring. If you paid attention to the background in the video, it purported to be an American girl, but the video was shot in a foreign country. It looked to be China. There were actually a lot of Asian people in the background. And the architecture seemed very like Chinese. And that's why we need to identify the people in the pro-Osama videos circulating on TikTok. Are they actually Americans? Or is it organized disinformation? Are some of them foreign actors or actors generally who are trying to then stir up something with actual TikTok users? I suspect these are really American progressives, but I also suspect that the ones that came first were probably AI or actors. The flood of sudden discovery of Osama's letter, which was published in newspapers in 2011, just does not seem organic to me. It spontaneously happens on the day Xi Jinping is in San Francisco talking to Biden. And my other part is this. Regardless of the message that Xi delivered to Biden to his face, the Chinese military, through TikTok's algorithm, delivered a stark message that resistance and terrorism are justified. Resistance is terrorism, and it is justified. But there's something else here, and I've got to go off on a tangent, and this gets me back to the Tucker Carlson and the Candace Owens conversation. So I think, for those of you who haven't kept up with it, Candace Owens continues to prattle on a lot of anti-Semitism. She's now essentially saying that people only care about Israel because of Jewish money. That if the Jews weren't throwing money at people, we wouldn't care. I can assure you I haven't gotten any Jewish money. Now, I was circumcised when I was a baby, right out of the hospital. We didn't even wait 8 days. It's just the doctor did it. But I'm Protestant. I'm not Jewish. but I got no Jewish money coming my way that I know of. Now, my syndicator, that they actually are a Jewish boss, but I'm doing like a lot of the work here, and I'm making my own money, and it's not coming from Jews. I wouldn't mind some good Jewish grandmother brisket and matzo ball soup, if I'm honest with you. I'm telling you. Texas thinks they've got a handle on brisket. The Jews got a handle on briskets. I suspect the original cowboy had to be Jewish, because the Jews and brisket, they know what's up. I'm just telling you. I could eat my way through Israel pretty easily. But that's just an aside. The reality is Candace Owen has been prattling on and on about Jewish money. She's been echoing anti-Semitism. I really think she wants to get fired by the Daily Wire. She blew up at Ben Shapiro, essentially said he was an emotional girl over what happened in Israel and blah, 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 blah. She starts quoting scripture. Now, Candace Owens explicitly rejected Christianity just a couple years ago. Candace Owens explicitly said she was not a Christian. And now suddenly she's quoting scripture all the time. Whenever anybody throws anything at her, she's, I'm a Christian, you're victimizing me. Christians don't act that way. But what's happening on the left with the TikTok videos is very similar to something happening on the right, and we see it with Tucker Carlson's videos on Twitter, where he's just asking questions, and it's what the people on the left do too. They're just asking questions. It is a postmodern tactic to pull you towards an emotion and away from reason, to allow you to form your truth, to ignore the actual truth. Carlson's been doing this a lot. He's got Candace Owens now, and they're like, why aren't people upset about the border? Have I not played y'all all of the audio of Republicans blasting Biden for the border? Have you not heard me talk about the border? Have you not tuned into Fox News, where every day Bill Malugin is outraged about the border? It's the suggestion formed by someone you put your trust in, and they expect you to twist to them that, oh, people really don't care about the border. Why are we only caring about Israel? Or the fentanyl crisis. I have done multiple monologues on this program about the fentanyl crisis. Multiple monologues about kids dying and the tragedy. And then you have Carlson and Owens nodding along of, oh, no one talks about it. Why are we only talking about the Jews in Israel? Never mind 31 Americans were murdered. Never mind that more than a dozen Americans are being held hostage right now by Hamas. It's just very interesting to me that this phenomenon, it's happening on the left and the right. And people on the right focus on it happening on the left, but it's actually happening a lot on the right as well. There was another one yesterday that happened. Yesterday on Twitter, a bunch of white nationalist-oriented alt-right Twitterati began just tweeting, Christ is King. What it was about, actually, is that Candace Owens got into this dispute with Ben Shapiro, who's Jewish. And Candace Owens passive-aggressively insulted Shapiro's Judaism and referenced a line of scripture, and all of these white young men who are alt-right, sympathetic to white nationalism, start tweeting Christ is King as a passive way to attack the Jewish Ben Shapiro, who Tucker Carlson, like them, began questioning Shapiro in his Twitter antics. They're grifting off anti-Semitism, part of it. But I just, for the record, as I tweeted yesterday, on the last day, a whole lot of people who have mouthed Christ is King are going to burn in hell because they don't actually inwardly believe it. I just need you to be mindful of this. And listen, I'm not trying to yell at you or preach at you in this. I just want you to be mindful that this phenomenon that's happening on the left and TikTok, it's happening on the right as well. Through the right social media. A lot of grifters poisoning minds to make money off of them. I think a lot of these people don't really believe the stuff they're mouthing. They're trying to twist people's minds. It happens on the right. It happens on the left. We see it in a lot of the election denialism stuff of people twisting videos and navigating you through what your eyes are seeing and telling you you're seeing something you're not actually seeing, and people buy into it. We're seeing it with these suggestions that why is no one talking about the border? They're only talking about Israel. Actually, no, they're not. In fact, Republicans in Congress right now are fighting the Democrats for border security. They're holding up funding to Ukraine in order to fund the border, and yet you wouldn't know it by listening to some of these right-wing voices on Twitter, on social media. Y'all, this is happening to a lot of our friends on the right and people on the left. It is malicious intent online. Start to understand why Scripture refers to Satan as the god of the air or the prince of the air. You got to be mindful of what's happening here. But there's something larger here as well. You need to be rooted in what you actually believe. This is why this is possible on the left and the right. There are a lot of people on the right and the left that they're not actually grounded in their convictions. They've listened to other people and they've decided, I agree with this guy. And they find other voices that sound like those voices, and well, I agree with those guys. They haven't actually developed any ideological underpinnings. They haven't developed a worldview. They've allowed other people to develop their worldview for them. And when you allow someone else to develop your worldview for you instead of you developing your own worldview, you can be led astray. Now, that's not the whole do your own research stuff. This is what all the conspiracy theorists say is, well, I've done my own research. There are voices you can and should rely on as you form your worldview and you test it. And part of testing your worldview is to appreciate and understand the arguments of the other side so you can decide what they're right about and what they're wrong about. But a lot of people only get into their echo chamber. They only hear their own side, and they're not then developing their own worldview. They're allowing someone else to think for them. And if those people have malicious intent, well, next thing you know, you're on TikTok singing the praises of Osama bin Laden, who murdered over 2,400 Americans, or you're on social media saying, well, screw the Jews, we got to secure our border. It's happening on both sides. It is a dangerous phenomenon. And overwhelmingly, it is because the algorithms of social media benefit the profitability of the outrage machine, and those who peddle the outrage the loudest get the most clicks and make the most money, whether they mean it or not. It's how Alex Jones made his money. It is InfoWars via social media. Alex Jones was a documented, well-known progressive guy in Texas on the cable access channels. He was a regular progressive. He flipped when he learned he could make way more money off of challenging conservatives. Then he got even more money when he embraced and built a loyal following as the real truth teller of conspiracies, telling you lies that he convinced people were truth. He's a huckster and a con artist and a fraud and a very horrible person. But horrible people profit the most on these sorts of platforms. We should all keep that in mind as we see a bunch of people who look like they're losing their mind on social media, on places like TikTok. It is poisoning brains. You should limit your access. I've had to step back from social media myself because it really is the most unhinged voices are the ones that profit the most, and I don't want to ever become that guy. How am I the reasonable person, by the way? I ask myself this all the time. I got this. Somebody texted me this the other day. How are you the sane voice? I don't know. I should be the insane voice, and I think if I didn't have that near-death experience a number of years ago, I might just be, but that kind of forced me to recalibrate that. I don't want my kids to be that insane. I had people show up at my doorstep to threaten my family because they thought I should agree with them on a political issue, on supporting Trump in 2016, and I didn't. And they literally threatened my family. And I was like, this is insanity. And we're seeing it now play out across America. Don't go insane on social media, people. The more you live your life offline, the more sane you will be, by the way. That's true. The people who are constantly online are the ones with the most anxiety, the most paranoia, and the most insane worldview. Now, let's move on. Vision Computer wants to save you some money. They want to build your laptop or desktop for you, your PC, and then they want to be your IT department. So listen, I've talked to moms and dads because we've got one, and my kid never asked me about his computer anymore, which is brilliant. He just calls Vision, and they take care of him. But let me just talk to you, the small business owner. You got a computer. You got a company. You got, let's say, 5, 10, 20 employees. They all need a computer, or most of them need a computer. Some of them need a laptop, some of them need a desktop. And you're like, I got to buy the computers. I got to pay the employees. I can't afford an IT guy. I'm going to be the guy that's got to figure it out. Let Vision do it. You buy your computers from them. They become your IT department. It's brilliant. You save money on the laptops and desktops, and then all of your employees have Vision's phone number. They can call if they got a question. You don't have to answer the question. Hey, boss, how do I install this? Hey, boss, how do I set up my email? Hey, boss, how do I connect my printer? Vision can do it for you. It saves you time. It saves you money. It saves you sanity. With Vision Computer. All you do is go to visioncomputers.com. Now, listen, I'm at my flagship station, WSB Today. Vision's headquartered in Atlanta. But those of you in Kalispell, Montana listening right now, or Salem, Oregon, or up in Hartford or Bridgeport, Connecticut, y'all can take advantage of this as well. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. 404-COMPUTE. Anyone nationwide can call them, 404-COMPUTE. Ask about the Eric Erickson special. Vision can save you even more money if you call them and ask about the Eric Erickson special, but let them give you peace of mind with your tech support.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
This is usually where I tell you about how First Liberty can help your business grow. The Frost family's asked me to do something else instead, and that's to remind you to be thankful that we do live in the greatest country. Look, if you want the help of First Liberty, they're willing to help you. You can go check them out at First Liberty GA if you're buying a building or building a building. But the Frost family, they're really committed evangelical Christians, and they are real patriots, and they just want to remind you to be thankful for what you have, and they are all very thankful for the business that so many of you have sent them. We are a week away from Thanksgiving. If I can put in a plug one more time for you to text the word donate to 33777. Hungry for a Day is still trying to meet its goal. They're a little bit short on trying to help all these food banks pay for the turkeys for Thanksgiving. So really every dollar, if you go to text the word donate to 33777. But more than that, we are a week away from Thanksgiving. And I just want to tell you all how thankful I am for all of y'all. And I'll spend more time with you on this later. But I really am thankful. So many of you have been so supportive of me as this show has grown from, I started 9 to midnight on WSB, moved into drive time, started doing 2 shows. We consolidated this all about a year, 2 years ago now in June, and the show has just grown. We're continuing to pick up stations, have some big stations coming at the first of the year I can't tell you about yet. But so many of you have been so supportive. Those of you listening to the live stream, I've got tens of thousands of people who listen online. They don't have a local radio station, and yet they tune in every day and listen online as well. Or they get the podcast and they listen on the podcast. A lot of people. I used to be drive time in Atlanta. For those of you listening nationally, I was in the afternoon, and now I got a lot of people who say, "Hey, I can't listen to you in the middle of the day, so I listen to your live stream in the afternoon, or I listen to the podcast," and they're still listening. They still reach out. I'm just very thankful for all of you. I really am tremendously blessed as a radio show host to be someone who fell into this by accident, never intended to do it, had no experience in it. And I was a friend of Rush's who really helped me get started. Might have fibbed on my behalf that I knew what I was doing when people asked. He was a dear friend, and now to be in his slot on my flagship station and many stations nationwide, it's very flattering. I'm very thankful. I still want to grow. I want to grow. I want like 700 talk stations. I think that's possible. 700 stations. That's what I'm praying for. The most listened to voice noon to 3 nationwide Eastern time. We'll get there slowly but surely with your help. So thank you all. But in all honesty as well, there are going to be a lot of people struggling to make ends meet. Costs are up. If you can help by texting the word donate to 33777, I'll send you the donation portal back for Hungry for a Day. Look, some of you are struggling and you may need the food bank this year. You might. Don't be too proud that you starve for Thanksgiving, but there are a lot of people who will if we don't help. So please text donate to 33777. Every $40 will provide a family of 4 a turkey and sides and dessert for Thanksgiving around the country. Hungry for Days partnering with food banks to help them. Thank you all for doing that. Your generosity is just flooring to me that you all step up every year. So thank you. When we come back, we've got to move on. We got a lot of stuff happening in Congress I need to bring you up to speed on.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.